we can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fragments of silicon, now trading for lumps of carbon at the best rate since 1997.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, is the regular crew.
Hooray!
Yay!
Yo!
All right, let's get to the news. Petty Fan, why don't you start us?
Let's see. My sister and Dad came back from their, I guess, vacation, air quotes. They went to go see my grandma. So I guess that was a thing. It's also been raining a lot here. So I haven't had a chance to, finish mowing the yard. And also last night after raid, I started noticing my wrist was starting to hurt a little bit, so that's been fun. Hopefully it's nothing, but if it starts hurting more, I may need to go consult a doctor, so that's going to be fun.
I will break your wrist on Thursday, I swear to God. If you're not putting out the deeps, you will be in deeps.
Good to know I'm still loved. Other than that, not a whole lot's been really going on my end.
Okay, then.
Galix?
Pretty quiet on this side, too. The Splatfest Ninja Turtles tournament finale is this week. It's Donatello versus Raphael, which is not hard a choice for me because I'm not a big fan of Raphael, but whatever. So I'll be trying to do that. The shuffling around of dates for my card game thing kind of got resolved. It's still a little bit frustrating, but I have a arrangement that'll work, so that's better than not having that. I'm looking forward to that 8-bit Bloodstain thing they announced. That's coming out pretty soon, I think, isn't it?
Next week.
So yeah, I backed the game at such a level that I will definitely be getting that. So, definitely looking forward to that. And haven't really done much with the games for this week yet, but I'm going to because now Thursdays are free, so I should have more time for it. And that's about all I got.
All right.
All right, who's next?
Adam, are you having connection issues?
Yeah, I said Twilight.
Oh.
Yeah, we did hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got muffled there.
Listen now, well, it seems spring's been skipped over here, and we've gone into summer, and it's been pretty nice, on at least one humid day so far. Listen now, what was it now? Oh yeah, Mother's Day was nice. We didn't really do much. My mom's not much for big outings or anything like that. I got her some gifts, and that's about it. So what was that? At work, somebody squirt some jam from the cafeteria into one of the Pepsi machines.
Ooh.
Yeah, into the coin slot. And-
Oh,
vending
no.
machines.
yeah, one of the vending machines.
Yeah, I wasn't quite. I didn't hear you quite right the first time.
Oh, yeah. Me and the coworker discovered it. We was collecting money from the Pepsi machines, and it was pretty nasty. We managed to clean up where the coins going into, but we couldn't clean out the slot itself. And thankfully, one of the Pepsi men managed to take care of that.
Yeah, I'm figuring at that point it's their problem, right?
Yeah, at that point. Yeah. So that was fun. And well, in terms of gaming news, we finally got around to continuing the RP after a few weeks of schedule issues, and now we're going to explore some elven ruins, apparently infested with goblins.
Oh man, goblins.
Indeed. And been playing the games for this Sunday, and been trying to finish up Dragon's Dogma as well. I've been playing on PC. Close to the
Came
end
out on
there.
PC? I thought that was 360 exclusive.
Nope, it's on PS4 as well.
Oh, well.
And,
Out of the loop I am on that.
It's a good game. You should pick it up if you like Japanese games trying to impersonate Western RPGs.
I remember Drac liked that game. I might see about giving it a shot.
Well, I guess that's about it for me then. So next.
All right, Ogre.
Well, we finally did it for doing Super Mario RPG. Not really a long time coming kind of thing, but needed to get done. At least at some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it sucks having a partially complete Let's Play because of some of the people you originally collaborated with deleted their parts or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it was more like it was either we do a Dragon Quest game, which I'm not too fond of getting him into right now, even though he seems to be having a fucking ball with Builders.
Apparently he just beat Builders like a few hours ago.
Yeah, that's what he said. He wanted to try the no legendary equipment during the final boss thing, and he said he didn't want to do it, and I called him a coward for it. And no, I haven't done it either because I'm not stupid.
I assume the legendary equipment is significantly better than...
You basically just be doing it naked. Let's see. What else now? Strangely enough, earlier today, the house across the street from us caught on fire.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that was kind of funny because saw some emergency vehicles outside of the.
I trust they're okay?
Yeah, they're fine. The news said all 4 of them are fine. Kids out there, listen, if you're going to cook something, pay attention to it.
Yes.
Oh.
From the house cook, yes.
Yeah, from the house cook, yes. Always pay attention to it if it's cooking somewhere, because that's apparently what happened. Because it was, because I just sat there for a bit and I was like, well, that kind of. I hope that's from somewhere else. And then I saw them out the corner, and then smoke came out, and I was like, oh, I gotta go tell my dad about this. He might enjoy this.
That's an interesting way to phrase that.
Well, it got us out of the house, and it's for a small little walk, so... Hey, I can't complain that much. It's a very expensive way to get me outside the house to walk, but... the option's always there, so... But, yeah, that was about it for exciting stuff today here, so...
All right. Mac, I guess it's your go.
All right. Well, let's see. Not a whole lot happened since we released teaser for Starship Moonhawk. Been contemplating the next move, which is I've actually been talking to the. This isn't meant as an insult. We'll call them the second unit. About the possibility of forging ahead the Space Destroyer Hunter episodes. Those will be more like short feature film instead of intended to be an ongoing, epic saga person. We have the pilot episode made, and I'd like to, of course, have a recurring cast. But as it stands right now, I only have 6 stories kind of want to tell with this crew, and then after that, it's just kind of wide open. I'd like to get that out there because we actually, I have signed contracts with Kaylee Mills and Kira Buckland to voice 2 of the main cast members, and I have a verbal understanding with Skylar Davenport, who has already done work for us before, to take the lead role of Captain Sky Cobalt. So I've been thinking about this, and we've been kind of dithering with that for almost 2 years now, and I realized we can't sit on that any longer. If I'm going to have these people who are actually professionals in the industry work on my, we'll call it politely an amateur side project, then I need to strike while they still give a damn.
Yes, I'm sure professional people prefer professionally maintained schedules, as it were.
We didn't do so hot on the Kickstarter, and part of the problem was that Starship Moonhawk wasn't doing much of anything, and this is a spin-off of a series that no one was looking at the time. That has somewhat changed, and I've actually been pushing more people towards my YouTube channel. Finally got over 50 subscribers. I know that sounds like woo-hoo, big whoop, who gives a fuck, but but it's progress, because that is 8 more subscribers in a 2-day period than I got all last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of significant. That means that the bar can be moved. The line in the sand is inching down the line, and we're getting closer to the goal. And god damn, that's a lot of awkward metaphors. But that's because I'm kind of seeking for an idea that sort of just popped into my head. Like, I know it's been in the back of my mind for a long time, but it's something that's, the solution to the problem jumped into my head literally this afternoon. So it's one of those molten hot things that is kind of hard to handle, and I'm trying to figure out where to go with it. So hope all that makes sense. And also decided, this is kind of relevant to our interests here. I've also decided, and you guys have a channel, of course, but I'm saying it to the general public for the time. I've also decided that my alter ego Mace Palladino is going to come out to play, and much as Stephen Colbert had the character, I will have Mace Palladino, and I will be doing 10 to 15 minute vlogs, possibly on a weekly basis, talking about items of interest in my life, the current comic works and all that stuff, and literally as much as YouTube will allow me to get away with on camera. I've already got a slate of interesting things lined up. Of course, the first episode of Up Late with Mace as a vlog will be a sort of intro episode where it's getting to know the character, who sometimes talks like Snagglepuss, just because he's an asshole.
Really? That's not what I would have expected from the costume you described.
Right. Yeah. dollars shades, a Cubs hat, and an American flag bandana around the face. Yeah. So it's a branding it, obviously, in the gaming industry, we cross over into, shall we say, politely, dark waters, and comics are no different. Every comic artist out there has to struggle to make a living, and I'm no different. And so I'd like to actually have a platform where I can talk about that without having to necessarily censor myself, like since I can be a little more free as a character than as myself. So I think it'll be fun because it'll give people a glimpse of fictional personality I think they've come to know. So we're gonna have some great fun with it. So the first episode will be introductory. I've already lined up a review with support from my K&D co-Awan steak sauce for the anime series Konosuba, which is kind of straddling the line. And it's going to be very kitschy. Instead of having like infographics and shit like that, I'm going to have Fujitsu stylistic tablet that will have my PowerPoint presentation on it. And every episode will have a different animated GIF playing on my my old HP iPac. Just sitting on an easel throughout the whole thing, being hypnotic. And it'll be kitschy. It'll be fun. I hope people will get some laughs out of it, and they'll also get some insights into my process that I can't really demonstrate on a program like this. So I'm very excited about that. And on the converse side of things, I think I am going to do maybe 5 to 10 minute weekly show called Max Mind, where I'll just be talking about whatever else is on my mind. What am I watching? I just started watching My Hero Academia. Oh, the feels. God damn you, Shonen Jump. You tricked me again. I thought it was going to be just a sit romp, but no. You had to go and get all dramatic.
It's definitely a Shonen Jump series.
Yeah. Every Shonen Jump series I've ever been sucked into like that does that to me. And maybe most people here won't get it, but Kama hits me in the feels every time they do that. God, seasonal arc.
Oh God, don't watch Hunter x Hunter.
It starts out nice and in this, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute.
So I apologize for going a little long here, but it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on the show, and a lot has happened. So wanted to give everybody kind of a heads up there, and as they say, the times they are changing. So that's it for me. Adam?
All right, let's see. Well, the rainy season has started. It's been raining all day, every day. So that means it's been humid as fuck.
Right.
I feel that.
The mold
it's like,
season.
Hmm?
The mold season.
Yeah. The just step out and you feel like you're going through soup season. And let's see. Took my mother to lunch. We didn't go to where we initially wanted because of the rain. Also because of her leg. Her leg is still hurting. She's going to see the doctor on Monday because it's been 10 weeks and it's not improving like it should be improving.
That is a long time to not have any improving.
Yeah. I'm last time she went to the doctor, she said, apparently she pulled some tendons in the knee and she's got arthritis developing there. She's in her late 60s, so not surprising. But hopefully she didn't tear one of her tendons or ligaments.
Yeah, that's gonna be a painful surgery if she did that.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully we get good news on that. Let's see. Got a new Xbox 360 controller. A proper one, not this Amazon basic shit.
A 360 or a 1?
A 1. It's
okay.
It's like, I already have a 360 controller. I didn't need a replacement for that, but I still need to get a wireless receiver, but not going to be able to do that until next month. But I also got the plug in place, so I can actually use this. So, but it's like I can play 2D games again.
Yay.
Playing 2D games, the analog stick is not optimal. I wouldn't recommend it, but you make do with what you have to do, and a working Xbox 360 controller is a better option than a failing Xbox One controller that you only bought like 3 months ago.
Oof.
Yeah, it's like, seriously, the Amazon basic model of the Xbox One controller is one of the worst controllers I've ever used. Don't buy them. Like, even if, it's like they look and feel like the proper model, but the build quality is fucking shit. Like, the face button started sticking, and half the controllers stopped working twice. I got 2 of them. And both of them, malfunctioned within months. So, yeah, don't buy those. Anyway, so I suppose that's all the news that's fit to disseminate this week. So, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. Like,
that's what I'm here for, is the cat calls and hooting.
Please don't cat call. Like,
oh, not like that.
Yeah, it's like, anyway, we've got Karrie Shirou of Tinybuild, among other organizations.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we like to start by asking the people who come here how they got interested in video games, both on a personal and professional level.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy question. I grew up with an older brother, and so I pretty much started playing games with him from the original NES era. So I grew up on, Zelda, Mario, all the way up into the Super Nintendo, which was still my favorite console to date. So Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger and Mega Man X and all of those games were just kind of my childhood. So I feel like it was pretty natural that I ended up going into the gaming industry just to be involved on the creative side and just make the games that I grew up with. And it's totally a dream job. I love being part of the industry and putting out games.
Oh, no doubt. Looking on your website, you have quite the extensive experience, not just at Tinybuild, but you're a writer. You write for Riot Games.
Yeah, Riot Games was coincidentally my start in the video game industry. It's not an easy industry to get into. It's, everybody wants to work in it because it's honestly, it's really a lot of fun. And the company that ended up taking a chance on me was Riot Games, which was a complete, stroke of luck, because I came on to the team pre-season 1, so before the game was really the League of Legends that everybody knew. It was the game was already launched at the time. It was out of beta, but it was still the underdog and didn't, grow to what it is now by any means back then. So yeah, I got really, really lucky, and I got to write and produce for League of Legends and work on some of the champions and write their lore and do those types of fun things.
Right, and any specific bits of lore that you can mention, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's phased out by now. I haven't actually gone back to check to see like what survived, but some of the champions I worked on back in the day was like Lux and Talon. And back then, if any of you guys were following League of Legends, we had the Journal of Justice, which was like a bi-weekly newsletter where we would report on news happening in the fictional world of Valorant. And we also did the champion judgments. So every time a character came out, they had a bio and the voice lines, which we helped out on, but we also did a short fiction in the form of champion judgments, which were just these little stories about how they came to the league. And so I worked on a bunch of those as well. And I'm trying to remember which ones I wrote. It's been so long. Lux was my particular favorite, but I wrote Maokai's and a few of the other champions' judgments.
I'm like, did you ever expect that League of Legends would get as big as it did?
No, I mean, I still remember when we were working on it. So this was 2010, 2011. Like I said, we were still the underdog. We were definitely not the household name. We were like, someday we would like to become like a World of Warcraft, like a game whose name you say and everybody knows. And I remember it was one of the producers was traveling in the airport, and he came back from the airport and he's like, oh my gosh, you guys will never believe it. I saw somebody playing League of Legends in the airport on crappy airport Wi-Fi. Like, it was just like amazing for us to see this game, our game, being played out in the wild. And that's how like far back we were, right? We're just like, oh my God, someone knows about this game. So everybody certainly hoped. And League of Legends came from a great pedigree of, it was Dota. Dota was a tried and true formula. It's a game that people are still playing to this day. So they knew the base of it was really good, but no one certainly would have expected how big League of Legends became and how it would kind of change the industry in terms of the free-to-play model. That was not really a thing that was occurring before, and now is the popular thing to do.
Right. And how long did you work at Riot?
About a year and a half. I left partway through 2011, so after the conclusion of the Season 1 championship.
Mm-hmm. Like, was there a specific reason for that, or just other opportunities?
It was just kind of like a mismatch. The company was growing a lot. So again, we went from baby little company to huge and, over thousands of employees now. So it's just kind of like a culture mismatch in the end. I ended up, when I left, I was producing on the Dominion project, which has been phased out like as of today, and also on the lore team a little bit. So we just kind of outgrew each other, and here I am now doing 10,000 other things in the industry.
Indeed. Like I see you've done business with Bandai Namco.
Yeah, Bandai Namco Entertainment America. Yep.
Mm-hmm. We know people there.
Oh yeah, who do you know?
Steven.
Akana?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steven's awesome. Dimitri's awesome. They have such good people working over there.
Dimitri's a regular guest on our program, and Cyrus has also been on the program.
Oh, great. Dimitri's my homie. I love him.
This small world.
It's very small.
Everything's interconnected.
Everything's interconnected.
Yes. Anyway. So, I suppose we should get to the main event. Tinybuild. How did you get hooked up with them?
Complete stroke of luck. So I was a baby. I mean, this was like 3-4 years ago. I'd heard about this amazing convention called PAX. I kind of grew up going to conventions, but I was more on the anime Comic Con side of things. And I heard about this amazing convention called PAX, and I just wanted to go. And I was looking for anyone who would essentially hire me for their booth so I could work and kind of pay for my own trip out there. I came across a company called Tinybuild. I didn't really know who they were. I heard of speedrunners, but that was about it. And they happened to like me. They brought me on to work their booths for a while I was just event staffing for them. And then I joined the team full time first in January of last year. So January 2017.
Mm-hmm. And what was your first project there?
Goodness. I mean, I was working PAXs with them. So we do all of the PAXs, the ones in the US that are the gaming focused ones. So not tabletop, but PAX South, East, and West. So I was kind of always working on that. And in general, Tinybuild's just a tiny team. We are just, at the time when I joined, everybody was just kind of working on every project because we didn't have that many games, and also just because we were small enough we could pass things around to each other. So working with the developers or working with first party like Microsoft and Nintendo to kind of coordinate launches with them and marketing and events, and we all just kind of dogpiled the projects back then.
Indeed. Certainly heard that story before with other indie publishers. I suppose the term is Tinybuild a publisher or a publisher and developer?
We are both. We started as a developer. We started with a game called No Time to Explain, which was a game straight off of Newgrounds. Like, we're talking Flash games, like back in that era. And that, because of that game that we developed, it gave us enough money to eventually start to publish. So with all of our games that we published, we're involved to different degrees. Some games we're not really involved at all. Some games we help produce. Some games we get in there and do art and co-develop and things like that. So it varies from project to project. So we're a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. Hello?
Yes.
We're still here.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Like the sounds cut out there for a bit. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah. So yeah, it really just depends on the individual project needs. If the team is pretty fully fleshed out, we don't really have to bother them very much. Like, for example, Streets of Rogue, which is a beautiful little game, roguelike game that is on early access right now on Steam. The developer is just one guy, Matt Dabrowski, and he just takes care of everything. And we just kind of check in with him and help him out to get to certain milestones. But he really just codes and does art and design and everything himself. Whereas some games we actually come in and co-develop. So it depends.
Like, is it just a matter of size that factors in, or are there other determinators?
A little bit of size, also the experience level of a team. Like Outpost Zero is another game that we're working on. It's a game where it's essentially a survival game where you load onto a planet with a bunch of other players and you try to survive, and you can work together against each other and build AI to help you farm resources. That game is being developed by a bunch of guys who are just veterans in the industry. They really know what they're doing. It looks like a beautiful AAA level art game, but it's really just started with like 3 guys on the team. So they haven't really needed so much help in that we talk with them and we have producers on the team with them, but they largely know what they're doing and take care of their own stuff. So it just kind of depends on experience level and what people need. I think that's the beautiful thing about the independent game industry, is that there's so much talent out there. And even if you're a guy who's making your first game ever, like the guy who made Stardew Valley, sometimes you need help and sometimes you just really don't, and it's kind of a roll of the dice depending on who you're working with.
And when did you move up to the role of producer?
With Tinybuild, I was a producer right away. So when I actually joined the team to do other things besides, hey, we just need you to show up at PAX and help us out at our booth and help it run. So that was in the January of 2017 is when I signed on with Tinybuild as a producer.
And I suppose another question here is, exactly what does a producer at Tinybuild do?
That's an excellent question. You'll actually, if you guys talk to a lot of devs, if you ever ask like, okay, what does a producer do at your studio? Everyone's like, I don't know, just whatever. I was a producer at Riot Games too, and the answer was, you just get stuff done. You figure out what your team needs and you help them get it done, or you get out of their way. A lot of times, and again, some teams need more help than others, but it's kind of like, okay, what do you guys need? Do you need to have us help hire somebody to come in and help code for you? Do you need, you guys are having a issue with like networking and we need to kind of research some like servers for you guys? Do you need someone to come in and do art? And a lot of times we help them assess those needs too, because when you're making a game for the first time, you have a lot of ideas in your head, but you don't really know the whole picture. So we just kind of come in and assess and help them out. And it's, a producer, at least in gaming, it's a very strange term, because we're not project managers. We're not necessarily sitting there with a project management, like a timeline, and just being like, hey, what's the status on this timeline? Like that's the easiest thing in the world to do, and that's just straight up project management. We don't do that. It's, again, I just gave you a very hand wavy answer, but that's kind of the truth. It's just whatever your team needs, and if you're doing your job as a producer and you've got a great team that's set up for success, you don't need to do anything at all, but that rarely happens.
Duly noted. I'm like, so it's a kind of a catch-all.
Yep.
Situation. All right, so the game we want to highlight now is called Garage or Garage Bad Trip. I believe we have a trailer for that.
Yep,
Mhm.
give me 1 second and I can play that. All right, good to go.
So for those, I don't know. That's right. We don't really do the podcast version anymore. So anyway, Garage Bad Trip is a bloody top-down shooter inspired by VHS era B movies.
I was gonna say it looks kind of Hotline Miami, but that also is a I forget what the original one was of the very top-down twin sticky.
The loaded games. Like, was I the only one who played those? Like,
I'm
Maybe
thinking of
so.
like, yeah.
But yeah, when they're talking about like the movies that Brad reviews.
You dropped in the middle of the word VHS.
Well, it's like, yeah, the movies that are of inspiration are the stuff that Brad reviews. You know, Cannibal Holocaust and the like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, you know, that subset. Although, I suppose my first question is does this have like a direct influence in terms of movies, or is it just like the style?
It's kind of the style, that ultra violent body count, bodies piling up, crazy body count type of movies. You'll see kind of in that trailer the kind of horizontal lines going across the screen. So that's kind of the visual fidelity of the VHS era. So that was the immediate inspiration, just that general genre.
And exactly why is this called Garage?
The story is, so you do play as that ex-drug dealer. You wake up in the trunk of a car that's parked in a underground garage. It's really more like an underground bunker. So you're trapped in this garage essentially, and you're trying to figure out, number one, what you're doing there. Two, why are there zombies? And three, why are there cops that are also trying to shoot you as well as the zombies? So it's kind of like a conspiracy theory. You're figuring out more of the world as you descend into this garage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason for the name.
It doesn't really look that much like a garage. The environment does look a lot more open than some of the other games that this looks like, though. So that's the thing.
It's a big garage. I was thinking, like an underground mall garage, almost like huge.
Yeah.
Okay, like a parking
We're not
garage,
talking like
yeah.
a two-door residential garage, Alex. It would be a very short game.
Yeah, you're like, how long is this game? I can get out of my garage pretty quickly.
Well, the Binding of Isaac takes place in a basement, so.
That's true.
Fair enough. Oh, let's see. So yeah, we had the Hotline Miami comparison. I suppose kind of inevitable given the style of game, but outside of like the influence, how does this thing differentiate itself in the top-down twin-stick shooter in terms of gameplay and the like?
For me, I think we all have different opinions on what made it different for us. Personally, playing it, I love like the atmosphere of it. So it's very dark. And I guess you asked about gameplay specifically. There's a lot of different weapon types that you can use, and you can kind of play it either a little bit more strategically, or you can kind of go Rambo in. So this game is pretty difficult. There is ammo management as well. So generally, Ramboing in is not going to work for you. Depends on how good your aim is. For example, there's the straight up pistol. There is there's the rifle. There's the assault gun, and then there's an axe. There's those like good old like hand combat. And so it's kind of up to you how you want to play that. And do you want to sneak around corners and be a little bit more sneaky, or do you want to just kind of go in guns blazing? It's up to you. And there's kind of a lot of different paths that you can take through the game. You can't obviously go full stealth. Like it's not like Metal Gear Solid where you can kind of stealth through the whole game. You do have to fight because the enemies will get you. But that was the difference for me.
Yeah, aside from Dark over Neon, it looks a little bit less short Twitch and mission based, and a little more make your way through a whole thing and exploratory. So
yeah, it's definitely not as Twitch based as Hotline Miami, or it's like, okay, here's a room or a set of rooms, and you have to try to get in and figure out where all the enemies are and do it all in one run. There are actually a lot of like slower portions in the game where you're just kind of walking through and exploring and finding secret rooms and things to unlock. As well as the more twitchy portions of like, I have to play it in a kind of a faster Twitch fashion because my aiming is really bad. So even if I approached it methodically, I just wouldn't succeed. Yeah.
Smash TV was the thing I was thinking of.
Oh, yes. And actually, like in the trailer, you'll see some of the bosses very reminiscent of Smash TV.
Yeah, that's actually what made me think of it, is that you have this huge boss in an arena. Yeah. It says that was based on Robotron 2084. So
Robotron 2084, that begot Smash TV, which begot so many other twin stick shooters. It's just aesthetically, this game reminds me of a couple of games called Loaded and Reloaded the most. Anyway,
yeah, I was just going for the very top down move around an area, and to me, twin stick shooters usually is a little bit more flyy rather than dude walking around, but that's just probably my limited experience with the genre.
This is one of the facets of the genre. Usually when people think twin stick shooter, they think more Geometry Wars than Smash TV side of things. Anyway, so how is the death system played out here? Is it like Hotline Miami where if you die, you immediately respawn, or is it more like checkpoint based?
It is checkpoint based. So you die and you respawn kind of at the last checkpoint, but they're not so far apart. You won't necessarily spawn at the beginning of your floor. You'll spawn again where the checkpoint is, like partway through the floor. It's not too terrible, though. It is a game where the damage, I played it on normal, so the damage done by your enemies is pretty high, so it's not that forgiving that you don't get that many chances with it, but the checkpoint system is pretty fair.
That's good to hear. And do you have to deal with lives?
No, you get unlimited lives, and you're going to need them.
Indeed, this game does look like it's going to be a difficult one, as I would expect from a twin stick shooter.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult, and there are definitely levels where you feel like sometimes there's smarter ways to play things, like because it's kind of a top-down view, we play a little bit with your line of sight. So in that trailer, you'll probably see there's going to be pillars in the middle. Again, it's a garage, so there's pillars kind of blocking your view. So that works to your advantage and your disadvantage, where if an enemy is rounding the corner, you may not see him until he rounds the corner. But at the same time, if you know he's there because you've replayed the level a few times, you can kind of sneak around and aim your shot perfectly to kind of kill him in one hit.
Is that a cabin? Is there a cabin in this parking garage?
Are you looking at the trailer?
Yeah. Or the thing playing on the stream. At some point, it looks like there's a house.
There might be. You'll just have to see. I can't give too many
Cough,
spoilers.
cough, play the game, cough.
No,
cough.
I know. I'm not actually like saying spoil the game for me. I'm just commenting on something that I'm thinking I'm seeing, and it's not a common trailer or garage. Not a common trailer.
Whatever. Like, so are there any sort of collectibles in the game?
There are not, at least not the ones that I encountered. So maybe I was just really bad in missing all of them. There's generally just health packs, keys, which you'll just use to unlock the most immediate door, and ammo. Pretty basic.
Let's see. In terms of development, is this game being built in Unity?
I believe it was Unity, and the team building it, they're called Zombie Dynamics. They're the developers based in Russia, and a lot of our Tinybuild games do come from Russia. It's their first game together as a team, though they've worked at other jobs before, some of them in the game industry, some not, but this was kind of their first game as a studio together.
Yeah, we've definitely had those types on our program before. I think we had one of those recently, like a couple weeks ago. And so I suppose my big question at this point is, why the Nintendo Switch with this game?
Because I'm going to give you like a fake answer. I was going to say, because if you go to any trade show or do any interviews or talk to any press or just fans, first question out of everyone's mouth is this coming to Switch? And I feel like it makes me feel like the Nintendo Switch Mafia is like out in full force, but it is true. It's a beautiful system. It's honestly like, we're like so many of us, especially people who play indie games now, we're just like, we're all about Steam, right? Because that's the home of indie games. But it's like, you get to play your Steam games on the go, and it's perfect. So
yeah,
for us,
we've been talking to a lot of people who do indie games who said that Steam has been a little hard to get their games noticed on.
Yes. It's like 70 games release a week now on Steam, and every year that number goes up. So you release and you're just swallowed up in the void, right? There's just too much to choose from. So particularly for Nintendo, we've had a good relationship with them. We have ported our games to their consoles in the past. We did Punch Club for 3DS. And so number one, all of our team members travel a lot. Our president, Alex, splits his time between Europe and America, and he's always flying somewhere. So he, in particular, for those guys, the Switch is a really great system because it's like, oh, I got like 20 hours to kill in transit. It's perfect. With the Switch also, it is, they've made it so much easier to port to their system. For Punch Club, we really had to just rebuild it from the ground up because, again, it was, for DS, you have to rebuild it for a touchscreen as well. But they've just made it so much easier, and it's just a good idea. Like I said, when we're at these shows, all of our friends in the industry, literally every question they get, it's like, oh, hey, we're interviewing, people about like PUBG. The first question is it coming to Switch? They don't even care what type of game it is. It's just like, it has to come up on Switch, or I don't want to talk to you. So it's great. It's fun. I love it. So.
I suppose the question to bounce off of that is this game actually exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, or is it coming to other platforms?
We are Switch first, so it came out May 10th. It just came out. And we just also have revealed that it will be coming to PC next. So it is Switch first. We haven't given a date for the PC. But actually, if you go to, I believe it's garage.game, you can sign up for the PC beta and kind of give it a try and see how it handles on the computer. So it will be coming to the other, at least PC, maybe the other consoles as well.
Okay, fair enough. Mm-hmm. And I suppose in terms of the Switch version, what's the specifications? Like, is it 1080, 60, docked, and all that?
That is a great question. I don't know.
Because this does look like a kind of game that frame rate might be important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know offhand what the FPS is on it. I know that I've been playing it on my Switch, and luckily I haven't noticed any lagging or anything that would Like I'm dying because I'm bad, not because the frame rate isn't refreshing as high as I would like it to be. But I'm definitely not like the expert on that.
Indeed. And I suppose I'm not sure if you can talk about the specifications on PC, like if you're aiming to hit 4K, unlock frame rate, and all that noise.
Yeah, I can't talk about that yet. All we can say is that it is coming to PC.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And in terms of the PC, is that the Windows platform only, or is it Mac and Linux?
I don't think we've announced. Generally, we'll always do PC and Mac if we can. So I think just PC for now.
All right, I'll see if my colleagues here have any other questions on Garage.
I have a question. There was one of the trailers in here had a section with like, I'm assuming it involved like drug use of some kind. It was like a whole bunch of neon rainbow stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any like visual, like any effect options to like tone that down a little bit? Because notice that was at least giving me a bit of a headache just watching the trailer stuff. So I didn't know if you got any other feedback on like toning that down a bit or.
I haven't personally seen the feedback, but again, we just launched and I haven't really been watching Garage that carefully. I've been we're prepping for E3, so things have been kind of hectic. I have played through at least a couple of the parts with that kind of drug trip effect, and it's not super long. It's not like a whole level of the Garage. But that's the first I've heard of it, so I'll definitely take that back to the team, and since we're looking at it and porting it now, I can bring that as feedback if we can do something about that.
All right.
All right.
That's it for me.
Okay. Alex?
I'm pretty satisfied with what I've seen so far. The game looks interesting, though.
Right. So, I suppose we should ask what you got planned for E3.
I wish I could tell you. I would not be employed anymore if I did.
God damn you, NDAs.
I know. Look, I've been like having to slap my own hand over my mouth because the announcements, so I will say that it is plural. We have multiple announcements coming for E3. They will be early on in the show, as opposed to like Thursday. And they are, oh my God, I'm trying to think of, we actually talked about what we're revealing yet. I'm like trying to make sure I don't say the wrong thing.
Are there any cough conferences we should keep an eye on? Cough.
I can't say that.
I tried, guys.
I'm actually I'm literally on our Twitter, like the Tinybuild Twitter, to see if we announced what we've said about the thing that I'm like, I almost told you, and I like bit my tongue because I like my job.
Yes.
It's like it's the Electronic Entertainment Expo, and they will be there, and there will be a thing, and it will probably involve games.
I will tell you. So there are multiple announcements. One of them we've already put hints out there of what it's going to be, and shall I say maybe videos and GIFs and things. We just haven't said what it is, but it is a thing, and we've put a trail of clues out there which nobody has figured out yet. So one thing is kind of already out there. The other thing we have not mentioned a thing on, but it is the potential to become maybe one of the biggest titles we've done as a studio, and I don't say that just because I'm super biased or anything. I'm very realistic about this stuff, right? So like it's really exciting. So not to be a shill, but like definitely keep your eye out on what we announce, because it's actually pretty we think it's pretty significant.
Well, I mean, if you're able to talk about these things after E3, we can schedule you for July.
Yeah, I'd love to. I could definitely, once we put it out in the wild, yeah.
Once we're out of the point where I could potentially lose my job, right?
Yeah, but then again, it's like, we're going to announce a thing, but we'll probably still be dodgy with the details. So I can talk to you to the degree that up to information we've given out up until that point. But at least you'll know what it is at that point.
Well, would July 13th work for you?
Oh, look, he's like already scheduling.
It's like I got my little book here.
Sometimes
He's like,
I
not
do that.
on the spot, but let's schedule it right now.
Well, I'm just, yeah, I got my scheduler open here, so. But yeah, it's like I'll just mark it down nominally. Like,
Yeah, sure. Just send me a reminder, and that should be fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, any other questions for Karrie at this point?
No, not that I can think of.
I have a question
Me
for you
neither.
guys.
Here we go.
And I know I want to make up something really crazy now. If you guys have played any of the Tinybuild games, and it's fine if you haven't, what is your favorite Tinybuild game? I'm just curious.
I think the only one I have of your guys is No Time to Explain.
Yeah, I think that's the only one I have. It's like, I might have more. I just haven't played them. Like, I have a lot of games in my Steam folder.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if I'm not playing a game for the show, I tend not to get to them until like the break.
Yeah, I don't think that I've played any of them, but No Time to Explain, I watched most of a Let's Play of that I really enjoyed.
So I'll say no.
And
Time to
Streets of
Explain.
Rogue looked good too.
A cranky old man with a lawn and a shotgun.
Accurate representation of our fearless leader.
But
I didn't know what else to say, so I just threw that out there.
but perhaps we can review like Garage when it hits the PC.
Yeah, definitely. That was honestly not like a to put you guys on the spot. I was curious, and like I said, I hadn't heard of Tinybuild until I started working with them a while ago either. So it's always good to know kind of what people have played. Certainly, most people have heard about a lot of like some of our games, Neighbor, most notably, but always good to know kind of what people are playing.
It is shameful for me to admit this, but as executive producer of this show, I play shockingly few games. I'm kind of putting my life back together here. It's one of those I haven't been playing games or watching anime or doing much of anything for the last 3 years.
What's
No, I
a social
feel
life,
you.
right?
let's just make it sad. I'm pathetic. I should be
feel
put out to
you.
pasture and shot.
It's like you hit a certain age, you become you have a job and a life, to whatever that looks like, and it's even worse when you work in the gaming industry because you're like, man, I have to keep up, but it is so difficult. I can't opt into these like 60-hour experiences anymore. As much as I want to play Witcher 3 and the new like Assassin's Creeds and everything, it's so difficult.
6.5 years ago, I put 255 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles, but let's just, job, the podcasting, the vlogs, the comics. The
I'd love to put
novels.
200 hours into a game, but at the same time, I'd also like to eat.
Yeah, then there's eating, occasionally sleeping.
Wait, hold on. What's this sleeping thing you're talking about, bro?
I'm working animated series. I'm sorry, I think I got off track there. Where am I?
I heard
Apparently
you going
also-
down the spiral.
I'm
Also,
40
something about keeping him out of the nursing home.
Yeah, I'm 41, and 80% of the time on this podcast, I'm the oldest man in the room. It's hard to believe we've been doing this almost 10 years.
This podcast, 10 years?
No, not this podcast, but we've been doing this for about 10 years.
Dang.
We're actually doing Fragments. We've been doing Fragments as part of, since the initial beginning of it, as part of my podcast, Moonhawk Studios Presents, in 2011. We've been doing it for 7 years.
Wow.
So the better decade.
Yeah, and we spun it off in 2013, and we moved to Twitch in 2017.
Mm-hmm. So it's been a roller coaster.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And we plan to keep going on, as far as we can.
We're able.
Yeah.
As long as we're able.
You guys will be live from the nursing home soon enough.
Hey, listen!
Back in my day.
Okay.
Old,
All right.
old Mac pulls at a cloud.
All right. So the game is
No.
Garage. Yeah. Anyway, the game is Garage. It's available now on the Nintendo eShop for the Nintendo Switch at $14.99. Coming soon-ish to PC. You can enroll in the open. Is it alpha or beta?
Beta. It's a PC beta.
Okay. At GarageGame.com. Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. All right, welcome to the topic of discussion. This week we are finally getting to Telltale Games.
Hooray!
Yeah, we've been angling to talk about them for about a month now, but it's one of those things happened, stuff occurred, had to push it back, but here we are. So where to start on Telltale Games? I suppose I should ask who amongst the crew has actually played one of their games or some of their games.
I think I played Back to the Future back when we had him on the 5 years ago.
We've never had Telltale on the show.
Did we? I don't know what I'm talking about then. What am I
guess
talking
I
about?
might have to be the load bearer here. Although I'll mention I've played a lot of Telltale's older games, the ones that were more in the style of traditional point-and-click adventure game. Once they moved to the more narrative-focused titles, they kind of lost me. Like, no, I didn't play The Walking Dead. No, I didn't play Batman, and so on and so forth. I do have Minecraft Story Mode. I just haven't played that yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
'cause
kind of like
that's a thing they did. They kind of transitioned from the name Telltale suggests kind of a narrative style, but they initially did more traditional adventure games, more actual puzzles, whereas they have since gone to the stereotypical Telltale game now is very narrative. You get like decisions, but they don't actually do too much, and they are generally aren't really puzzles anymore. It feels like.
Right. But and there are reasons for this. Back, when they were first getting started, Telltale was founded by a whole bunch of LucasArts veterans, specifically from their adventure game division, and they were laid off from doing Sam & Max 2 and Full Throttle 2 because they were told adventure games didn't sell anymore. And they, as I understand it, they created Telltale specifically to refute those charges. Also, Telltale was kind of the lead, the cutting edge on episodic gaming. If you remember that, I guess episodic gaming is still around. It's just I think it's kind of forgotten just how much it was being pushed as the next big thing in, say, 2005, 2006. This is the concept that is going to revolutionize all gaming all time.
You mean like after Half-Life 2 started saying they were going to do it and before Half-Life 2 stopped doing it?
About that. And then you had Sin episodes, and there were other experiments. And speaking of experiments, Telltale in the early days was tied to the experimental Turner platform GameTap, which is sadly all but forgotten. Talk about concepts ahead of their time.
Yeah, that's
Telltale
where
is-
I played some of the Sam Max game. That's about all my experience goes.
Right, and you can see it on the first 2 seasons of Sam & Max, but GameTap funded those. They fund. Though that wasn't their first game. That wasn't even their first adventure game. Their first adventure game was an adaptation of the Bone comic, and that did terribly. It's the only Telltale game series that never got completed. They only released 2 episodes and they got canceled. Unfortunate, I know, because Bone is a really great comic. but they did find a measure of success in the Sam & Max games. So much so that they branched into other popular, if cultish, fare. Wallace and Gromit, Strong Bad, Homestar Runner.
But this is where we don't get stupid rat things.
Yeah. Tales of Monkey Island, what have you. It's really in, when we get to the next decade, like 2010, 2011, they start upping their licensing game. This is when we see things like Back to the Future, the adventure game series, which I think is their last traditional adventure game series. Because then they had Jurassic Park, which, for God knows what reason, decided to ape Heavy Rain. Like, I do not know why they decided on Heavy Rain as an inspiration, but it sucks like Heavy Rain sucks.
Okay, sad. Wait.
And then we get to the thing that changed everything, The Walking Dead. Yeah. Not just in terms of how they presented their games, because The Walking Dead is when they shifted from point click, use the thing on the thing, your traditional adventure game, to the much more narrative focused choose your own adventure style that they're much more known for these days.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing that launched them into stratosphere, and also the thing that caused them a lot of their problems, because I think like the Telltale game series sold, I'm trying to think, like between 1 to 2 million, like big franchise for them. And this is when we start seeing them pursue license after license after license. Big time license, whether it be for video games. They get Tales of the Borderlands, they get Minecraft, they get outside they get big things like Batman, the Telltale series. They do Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of Thrones, their other critically acclaimed title, Fables, or The Wolf Among Us, as it's actually, because they had to change the name because of the Fable franchise in video gaming. Like, yeah, it's an adaptation of the Fables comic book.
Mm-hmm.
The one what with all the fairy tale people in the semi-modern setting.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard it's among their best. I haven't played that one. It's another I want to get to.
Yeah, I've played some of it. It's pretty good so far from what I've played.
Yeah. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention Puzzle Agent. Mainly because that's a different kind of puzzle game, or adventure game, however you want to frame it. It's like it's a bunch of logic puzzles put together in the style of, say, Fargo. Like, really strange, but really fun. Underrated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they also did some poker games for whatever reason. But so they were basically chasing that metaphorical high in all of these big licenses, but problems arose not just because they were doing game after game, rushing it out and all that stuff, but the literal tool set that they've been using. It's called the Telltale tool. You want to know how long they've been using this? From 2005 to about this year. That's a long time to use a tool set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely long enough to start having serious compatibility issues with things.
Yep.
And yeah, it's like, just go and read some reviews of Telltale games in the modern age, and you're going to find a lot of those. You're going to find a lot of frame rate issues. You're going to find a lot of resource hogging. Apparently this engine is so outdated, they have to they have to code in physics. You know.
Yeah, most engines would have just made a Telltale Tool 2 by this point.
Yeah, it's like I
Or
get it.
4.
You know, it's like I get it too. Like, you know, they've got their own proprietary tools. They're familiar with it. They know how it works, and so on and so forth. But outmoded tools are outmoded tools, no matter how you slice it. And these things were designed for, you know, things that were released in the middle of last decade.
Yeah, I'm not saying fix something that isn't broken. I'm just saying maybe evaluate your definition of broken when you're still using axes to chop down trees when the industry standard has progressed to chainsaws.
Yeah, and so I think it was last year where they had to do a reduction of workforce, and their CEO had to step down. Yeah, they bled out quite a bit because of all these problems. These games weren't selling to justify the huge cost of their licenses and that kind of thing. Thankfully, they're not, you know, destitute or near bankruptcy, from what I understand, and they're alleviating their engine problems because they're moving to Unity. Like, I know people have their problems with Unity, but at least that is an engine that is in date.
Yes.
You know, it's like that's not going to cause you the myriad of problems that the Telltale tool has been having. So it looks like that they're going to the reorientation is working for them. It's just we don't really know what their next move is. Right now they've been doing the wrap up, like on the Batman series. And you know, taking care of all that stuff before they're probably going to announce what they're going to do next at E3. Right. And
E3 is a place to do that.
Yeah. And I do hope they make it through it because, you know, I do have a lot of respect for Telltale, even though I haven't been a fan of the style of the games they've been doing recently, because they are the ones who revived adventure games. Not that adventure games were ever truly dead, but they're the ones who have brought it as close to the mainstream as it's getting. Like, you know, the old style of adventure games aren't really going to sell like they did in the 90s. That's just a fact of life. But they have shown that a new breed of adventure game is viable. You know, and can even make it into the mainstream. Like, I remember when The Walking Dead was everywhere, getting awards at major shows. You know,
and that's an evaluation of a comic series, right?
Yes. That's the interpolation of the comic, not the television show.
Right. Well, the television show is also based on the comics.
Yes, but there's a difference between this being an adaptation of, like, the comic or an adaptation of the television show, which is based on the comic. You know?
Right, because the show changes stuff.
Yes. But, like, I don't know how much it follows the comic or anything. I've never indulged in anything Walking Dead. Like, I was kind of done with the zombie thing.
Man, now throughout this whole thing, I've been daydreaming about a bone adventure game.
Anyway, any closing comments on Telltale Games?
I have not really played much of their stuff, but I do kind of like the idea of what they do. So I look forward to hearing what they're doing next.
Let's see why. Okay, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead. So we've got 3 reviews coming up this Sunday. Let's see. First up is Dungeons Forever. This is, how do I put this? Basically a freeware version of Super Mario Maker, you know. And yeah, it's basically that. You know, it's obviously not as, say, versatile or as in-depth as that game, but for a completely free tool editor thing, it's pretty good.
Uh-huh.
You know, more on that on Sunday. We got Starting the Game. This is a very interesting title, and that's all I'll say right now. Because talking about it in more will spoil things.
I assume it does not, in fact, contain the ending of the game.
Once again, I'm not going to get into that.
I know. I'm just. It's a name.
It's like I'm just waiting for you guys to experience it. I'm not sure if you're going to enjoy it, but it's certainly unique.
It is.
And finally, we've got the Quest of Vihudra. I honestly do not know how to pronounce this. I think it's Hindu, but I'm not positive. Basically what this is a Super Meat Boy style platformer. Only a lot more, let's say, basic. I know that sounds weird, but if you play it, you'll understand what that means. And coming up next week, let's see, we do not have a Tuesday show. And next Wednesday, we are slated to have either Michael Kulas and Matt Tushong. I'm like, okay. Names that you have no idea how to pronounce. Of Revival Productions. They're making a game called Overload. It's basically the real spiritual successor to Descent. I know that sounds like a very specific quantification, but it has to be because there's actually a game called Descent Underworld that we actually featured on the show a few years back.
I recall that.
Yes. But this game, while not having the Descent license, is actually made by the people who worked on the original Descent. So, hence the very specific qualifier there. The game is in early access currently. It's coming out at the end of the month. Hopefully we get the Steam codes and all that. I know one of them is having their anniversary next week, but I can't remember which. I'll have to look over the email. But yeah, that's what's coming up. So until next time, I wish you good gaming.
The post-show thing is up.
Actually, you guys mind giving me and Adam the room for a little while? We're gonna need to talk about some things that are creator stuff.
So go off the air, or?
Yes, off the air, and